Hi everyone, this is Peanut and welcome to my channel. It's been 4 months since I received my green card. We had our green card interview or adjustment status interview on November 16, 2021. That was last year. And 2 weeks after that, I received my green card on the mail. And it's not only a 2-year conditional permanent residency, but it is a 10-year permanent residency green card. So today in this video, I would like to share with you the questions that they asked me and my husband during our adjustment status interview or green card interview. So if you are one of those who are still waiting for your adjustment status interview, I would like to invite you to continue watching this video so you will have an idea about the questions or the kind of questions that they are asking during a green card interview or adjustment status interview, especially if you came here to the United States on a K1 Fiance Visa. But again, before you continue watching this video, I would like to invite you to subscribe to my channel and I will be back in 30 seconds. In my previous videos, I shared about our adjustment status timeline. So if you haven't seen that videos yet, I'm going to include the link in the description below, so be sure to check that out. And I also there's also a video where I'm talking about the documents that we brought with us during our adjustment status interview or green card interview. So if you are not sure about the documents that you need to bring with you during your green card interview or adjustment status interview, I will also include a link in the description below, so be sure to check that out. So what are the questions that they're asking during a green card interview or adjustment status interview? First, you have to know the questions on the form I-485, and that is the form to adjust status or form to apply for permanent residency. During the first part of the interview, the interviewing officer will be looking at the form I-485, and he will be asking you all the questions on that form. So make sure that you know the answers to those questions, and during the interview, while the officer is asking you those questions and you're giving your answers, he will be checking the information on the form I-485 to make sure that your answers match the information that you have written on the I-485. If there are changes, he will be marking them and make the corrections. For example, when you filled out the I-485 and you were still living in California, but during the adjustment status interview or green card interview you are already living in another state, so the officer is going to change the information on that part of the I-485. The reason why they ask all the information on the I-485 is to make sure that the information that you have written there are correct, and that is the basis of the USCIS in preparing your green card. So if there are errors on the form I-485, you will receive your green card with errors. So make sure in the first place that when you are filling out the information, when you're answering the questions on the I-485, make sure that they are correct. But again, if you have made mistakes on I-485 during the interview, that is the chance to make those corrections. And after the interviewing officer asks all the questions and made all the necessary changes on your I-485, he will give you the chance to go over all the corrections, and then he will let you sign the form. In case you are not yet familiar with the form I-485 or the form to apply for permanent residency or adjustment status, these are the questions that they're going to ask during the interview, which are on the form I-485. For those of you who are not familiar with the questions or the information that are asked on the form I-485 or the form to apply for permanent residency or just status, because you haven't filed for adjustment status yet, these are the questions or the information that the interviewing officer will be asking you on your interview, on your green card or adjustment status interview. But if you have already submitted or sent out your application to adjust status or application for permanent residency, you have already filled out this form and you are already familiar with the questions. But again, these are the information and the questions that the interviewing officer will be asking on the first part of your adjustment with status interview or green card interview. So he will be reading all the questions here and making sure that all the information that you have written there are correct. So make sure that the information that you have written here or the answers that you have written here on this form I-485 match your answers during your interview. But don't worry, because if there are mistakes or if there are errors or there are changes, the interviewing officer will be making those changes on the form. And then after he asks all the questions on the form, and after you answer all those questions on the form, he will let you go over all the changes or the corrections on the form, and then he will let you sign the form to make sure that the changes are correct or all the information, the new information, are correct. So for those of you who are not familiar, these are the information or the questions that are on the form I-485. Part 1, information about you, your current legal name. So you will be asked your family name, your given name, and your middle name. And in case you have other names or you use other names since birth, you will be asked again the family name, the given name, and the middle name, and other information about you, your date of birth, your sex, your city or town of birth. And then the part 2 is the continuation of the second page is the continuation of part 1, information about you, your country of birth, country of citizenship or nationality, alien registration number if you have any, USCIS online account number if you have any, mailing address in care of, so that is street name, street number and name, apartment, suite, floor, city or town, state, and zip code. Security, social security card. Has Social Security Administration ever officially issued a social security card? If your answer here is yes, then you have to provide your US social security number or SSN. So these are all the information or the questions that the interviewing officer will be asking on the first part of your interview. Information about you, application type or filing category, whether it's a family-based, employment-based, special, immigration, asylee, or refugee. But again, I'm talking about K1 Fiance Visa, since I came here on a K1 Fiance Visa, so this is a marriage-based visa. Part 2 is application type or filing category, special programs based on certain public laws, additional options, etc. Part 3, additional information about you. If you ever applied for an immigrant visa to obtain permanent resident status at a U.S. Embassy or U.S. Consulate abroad, yes or no. Next is additional information about you, your address history, street number, city, town, province, postal code, etc. Your employment history. Then additional information about you, information about your parents. So you must be able to know the information about your parents, their first name, their last name, their complete name, and their birth date. Next, also information about your parents, information about your current marriage, current spouse legal name. You must know the name of your spouse, your partner, your husband or your wife, information about your marital history, information about your children if you already have children, general eligibility and admissibility grounds, biographic information, general eligibility and admissibility grounds, the same, criminal acts and violations. So the interviewing officer will be asked you these questions that you are going to answer yes or no. Don't lie. If you have committed one of these crimes mentioned here, you should say yes. I hope not. General eligibility, admissibility. So these are all yes, no questions. So all yes, 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 no, 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 depending on your case. And then after all this, after the interviewing officer have asked all these questions on the I-Form-485, again, he will ask you to go over the corrections. And if you're sure that they are all correct, information are correct, you are going to sign the form. So after asking all the questions on the Form I-485, the interviewing officer will proceed with the questions which are more personal about you and your spouse. And these are the questions that the interviewing officer asked me and my husband during our adjustment of status interview or green card interview. The first question is, how did you meet? The next, what is the name of the app? How does it work? You met in South Korea, what place? Where did you live in South Korea? What is the exact address? How long had you lived in South Korea? What kind of work did you do in South Korea? What kind of work did you do in South Korea? What is the address of the company? Before you went to South Korea, what kind of work did you have in the Philippines? What did you teach? Why did you go to South Korea? When did you come to the United States? What date did you leave South Korea? What date did you arrive in the United States? And then question to my husband, why did you leave South Korea first? What did you do in South Korea? Which school? How long did you teach in that university? What subject did you teach? What kind of work do you do now? And then he asked the questions to both of us. What was the place you last visited? And then again, he asked a question to me. Have you met his parents? And then to both of us, when did you get married? Where? Do you have a wedding ring? Where did you buy them? Where did you have your honeymoon? Do you share the same bed? Why? How many bedrooms do you have? Do the rooms have the same size? How many bathrooms do you have? Do you eat together? Do you cook? What kind of dishes do you make? And to my husband, he asked the question, can you describe a kare-kare? Do you eat outside? And then another question for me, what does your husband teach? What is his work schedule? What is your schedule? How does he pick you up? When your husband comes home from work, what does he usually do? What time does he usually go to work and comes home? Where do you work now? Where is it? Can you give me the address? How much is your salary? Do you share the same bank account? What is your bank? Do you go to school? What is the name of the university? What degree are you taking? Then I asked this question to my husband. Do you help him pay his tuition? How much is his tuition fee? Do you travel? Where was the last place you visited? Have you met his family? How do you talk to them? So those are the questions that the interviewing officer asked me and my husband during our adjustment status interview or green card interview. Again, many of the questions were the same, but the officer wanted us to give consistent answer. My answer and my husband's answers were consistent. So make sure that during the interview you are giving consistent answers to those questions, because the interviewing officer might ask a question to you and then he will be asking the same question to your partner. So make sure that your answer and your partner's answers are consistent. I also noticed that during our interview there were couples who were interviewed separately, but in our case, I think one reason is that we were the last couple to be interviewed, and it was already like 4 in the afternoon. So we were not interviewed separately. So we were interviewed together. So my husband and I and the interviewing us officer were all together in one room at the same time. We were interviewed at the same time. But whether you will be interviewed separately or together, make sure that you are going to give consistent answers to those questions. So don't worry, before you go to your interview, make sure to review some questions like the questions that I shared with you today in this video, and information that needed to be memorized, like the date of your birth, the birthday of your husband or your partner, your birthday. So you must be able to memorize each other's birthday, other informations like the kind of work that we do, like the kind of work that your partner does, and the place where he works or she works. Those kinds of information, like specific information. So you must be able to memorize and review those information before you go to your interview. So I hope that you learned something from this video, and I hope that you are ready for your green card interview. And if you have questions, feel free to ask them down below on the comment box. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, I would like to invite you to subscribe, and I will see you again on my next videos. Bye bye.